Saghafi, Liberty Home Mortgage. And this topic, what is a USDA loan? USDA. Now, if you live in New York City, Chicago, Miami, the rock and roll capital of the world, which is where I do my videos from, Cleveland, Ohio. Maybe you're in Los Angeles, in San Francisco, in Seattle, in St. Louis, in Detroit. Where else can I come? Am I leaving anybody out? Tampa, there's a couple more cities out there, right? Okay. Well, if you're in those cities, USDA doesn't mean anything to you. Who cares? Okay. But if you're not in those cities, I'll tell you this one. I started thinking Indianapolis, places like that. But if you're at Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Baltimore, if you're not in those cities, when you get outside of a metropolitan area, I got news for you. Say hello to USDA. So if you're a real estate agent selling homes or you're buying a home in what are called rural areas, now depending on which part of the country you're from, you're going to say, that guy pronounced that funny. No, I didn't. I pronounced it the right way, but then you might pronounce it funny to me. Okay? If you're in rural areas, which exist, there's a lot more rural areas in the United States than there are cities, okay? Believe it or not, there's a big country, okay? If you're in a rural area, that's where the USDA comes in. Now, there's a couple different types of USDA loans. One comes directly from the USDA, okay? All USDA loans, it's the US Department of Agriculture, okay? What was found was people in rural areas, let's just pretend you live in the middle of North Dakota, okay, or Montana or Idaho. That's getting pretty rural, okay? You start going to those areas, somebody living there does not have as many options for financing to buy a home as somebody who lives in Los Angeles or New York City, okay? You go to New York City and there's a bank every 4 feet you walk. So ultimately, people in those areas, North Dakota, Montana, wherever, okay, they don't have as many opportunities. So what the government did, they took the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which already had a footprint in rural areas, and they carved out a little niche for residential housing. So if you're buying a regular house, a lot of people will say, Khash, I'm not buying a farm. Good, I can't do it on a farm. Does the USDA do farm loans? I'm sure they do. I love John Cougar Mellencamp my whole life, and he did Farm Aid back in the 80s. I still think he does Farm Aid. But anyways, so I'm sure the USDA does farm loans. But on the residential mortgage lending side, they have nothing to do with it. It's a traditional lender like myself. So what you want to understand is that they carved out this little residential loan for USDA, and we can do a USDA loan, a loan insured or guaranteed by the USDA, given from a traditional lender such as myself or Chase Bank or Wells Fargo or Rocket Mortgage or God knows 14,000 other lenders in the country. I can't say everybody does them, but most lenders probably do them. So we give this. Now there's restrictions and criteria. I'll give you a couple, okay? And they'll surprise you. It has to be zoned residential. It cannot be zoned agricultural. And you'll say, Khash, that's so stupid. No, it's not. They carved a little portion out for residential lending, okay? If it's zoned agricultural, I would only guess, Google the USDA and go call them, okay? And just say, I'm buying a farm. I assume they give loans on farms, okay? But I don't do those loans, so I don't know anything about them. Let me tell you about the residential side of USDA. It has to be zoned residential, okay? You cannot have outbuildings. You cannot have things that will help you generate income. There are location restrictions and there are income restrictions. In other words, location restriction. You can't do one in Cook County, Illinois, okay? That's Chicago. You're not doing it in Chicago. You're not doing it in Los Angeles County. You're not doing it in Orange County. You're not doing it in Miami-Dade County. You're not doing it in Broward County. So in counties where there's cities like that, that's the location restriction. You cannot do it in those areas, but can you do it outside of, can you do it in Payne County, Oklahoma, which is where Stillwater, the greatest university, is at, Oklahoma State University? Yes, you can do it in Payne County. So you want to find, there's areas, and there's a ton. I mean, when you take any state, the bulk of the state can go USDA. It is USDA eligible. Those are location restrictions. The income restriction side of it is you cannot make over a certain amount of money depending on what region of the country you're in and depending how big your household is. So there's something called income restrictions that you can't go over that number, or you can't go with a USDA loan. That's the reason why it cannot have corn and soybeans and barns and horses stables, things that you can make money on. You would screw up the income restriction requirement for the loan. That's why you can't have that. There's other guidelines with it, but of course talk to a lender who knows about it. But USDA loans are guaranteed or insured by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, but the ones I'm speaking about are for residential properties, sort of in the middle of nowhere. Hopefully I didn't offend anybody with that one, okay? But for more information, give me a call. I lend in 45 states, or call your local lender, your friend, your buddy, your real estate agent who they refer you to. Hopefully it's me. Like my YouTube page, share, comment, and do 20 other things with it, and I'll catch you on the next one.